Okay, here we are. We're live. Let me switch over. I got the wrong camera going. Hey, everybody. Good morning. I've got today Leanne on the phone line. And so, Leanne, we've got your audio. We don't have your video, but give us a hello to make sure that we've got a good audio rolling here on
Good
our.
morning, everyone.
There she is. That's Leanne. Now
That,
she's going to be looking out for your comments in the chat.
yes, and we already have people here from Florida and Louisiana and Arizona that I know
Sweet.
of.
All right, cool. We got someone from Arizona. Is that me? Or do we? Oh, we've got Mavis. I see Mavis
Mavis
on the
is on.
chain. Ah, I
Yeah,
see. Arizona
we've
is a
got Rachel.
fantastic place. We've got snow. How's weather up in British Columbia, Leanne?
Oh dear, it's beautiful here. It was really hot yesterday. I had to turn the air conditioning on in the car. It was great.
Really? See, that's funny.
Like
You're way
60
up
from the
north
valley.
and you're warm, and I'm way down south and we got snow. That's funny.
Yeah, it's probably like 62, 63, 4 degrees.
Oh, yeah, that sounds beautiful at the moment. We did have a warm
Mm.
spell. This is normal for us. And, right around every year, right around this time, right around Easter, we get the springtime roller coaster. Warm, cold, warm, cold. It's pretty normal to have that.
Yeah.
So on the agenda today is a lily pond. And this was a request, came to my email. And I thought it was a good one because this is outside of my comfort zone somewhat, trying to capture impressionistic style. I'm going to start with an underpainting. I was thinking, hey, something I have learned as my career has progressed, something I've learned is that the traditional underpainting does have some value. It is a valuable thing. So I'm going to get my colors and values. This is how I'll use an underpainting, is just to try to capture the colors and values that I'm after, enough to make more specific decisions. It's different than just looking at a picture. When you do the underpainting yourself, your short term, okay, I say but I really should just speak for myself. My short term memory kind of gets a real good idea of what kind of primaries or what kind of colors I'm going to put on that canvas. It's when you're working from your memory of last week, it's not as good of a workflow as when you're working from your memory of 30 seconds ago. So I'm going to get all of this color mixing fresh on my mind with an underpainting. That's what I'm going to do.
Okay, and Tyler's just letting us know that the stream looks great.
All right. Thanks, Tyler. I appreciate that feedback. I appreciate it. Sometimes we are at the mercy of the internet, and the internet is not so merciful, so that's good. All right. I'm putting some bright yellow on here. I love to use yellow and purple. This is something that I have grown to love, the combination of, because it creates what I like to call like a translucent glow. It creates a nice glow gradient where you don't have the loss of color as you go from the light to the darker. You don't lose color. So if I were to just add white to the middle of some color, or if I have two different colors, like a yellow to something more on the bluish side, I get a halo where they blend that's not like natural light. But with purple and yellow, it's a lot more natural looking. I'm not going to say perfect, but a lot more natural looking. So I can get this backlit scene real quick just by putting some yellow and purple on here. And then I'll course correct as I progress if it's not exactly the look that I'm going for. But, it's one of those, like something out of a little bag of tricks. Yellow and purple are just really nice go-to for capturing glow, just immediately getting the look of something glowing. So I'm going to go more yellow as it approaches the middle of my scene, because I just want a soft atmospheric vibe, like we've got some kind of ambient light coming through an atmosphere, and it's going to be messy because I'm just going to end up painting over it. So something like this, see, nice and messy. It's just an underpainting. We're not going to concentrate too hard on it. I want to show you inspiration pictures. I posted a lily pond that I just asked AI to generate on my thumbnail because I didn't have one ready. Not trying to cheat with AI, but it's handy just to do a quick mock-up of the style that's not copyrighted. So look, here's Google. We're surfing the internet looking at this style, and let me get rid of this little. We'll minimize this guy here. Let's see if we can get that call down there. All right. So if I scroll through these, what I notice about this style is there's not a lot of energy concentrated on getting exact edges. That one's pretty detailed, but as we scroll through, that's a photograph. Here's a good example of one that's got soft edge. We're getting colors and contrast in good locations without concentrating real hard on sharp edges. It's kind of like giving just enough. And what I find interesting about this is realism is the same concept. Realism, when people will kind of label me as a realistic painter, which I'm not trying to argue that, but I'm using the same strategy. I'm just trying to give enough information to the viewer that it causes the imagination to build the rest. I like to say the imagination fills in the blanks. And some of these you can see are a lot more clear than others. I think these are actual Monet paintings in this one. So it's a good just a good example of the style. We could see the brush strokes. We don't have fine details really anywhere. We just have the information needed from a brush stroke to trigger our imagination, our memory. So I'm going to strive for that same look. I'm going to try to use what I understand about light mixing, the way it goes through things, the way it bounces off of things. I'll just kind of talk through that while I do a messy painting. If we're going to mislabel Impressionist work, I'm just going to do a messy painting. So yeah, it's not my typical project. What do you think, Leanne? Have you ever tried Impressionism? Do you stuff along that route much?
I haven't done much. I tried it a couple times. Once when you got us to take a picture and make it very small, and then just block in the colors.
Oh, that was a good. Thank you for reminding me about that.
That was a good exercise. Yeah,
that was fun. Yeah, I forgot about that.
But
yeah, that's the idea. Again. I forgot. Boy, we should do that again. I miss those days. For anybody wondering the context of that, there was a website that is now closed down called Super Peer, and so it was a paid platform where we were doing weekly videos just like this one, weekly live streams. So we're not doing it now, so don't feel like you're missing out on something. But that's one of the projects we did there, was taking a picture, making the picture so small that we're unable to put the tiny details, trying to capture the essence of it with the larger shapes and colors, because that's all that you have going.
I did try it again a little bit just this last fall, and I created some really good paintings from it.
Nice.
Small ones.
Did you?
Nothing I would show anyone else, but it was.
Oh, okay. I was just going to say, do you want to show them?
Yeah, I've got a lot of stuff packed away still. We're still building our house, so.
Ah, you're building a house. Nice. Yeah. How's that coming along? It's been a while, right?
Yeah.
Couple years?
Well, it's we took so long to sell our other place, but it's slowed down everything.
Yeah.
But we're now in Campbell River and doing our thing.
I'll have to look at the map. When you say places, forgive me for not knowing where they are. Campbell River.
Campbell River, yeah. We're on Vancouver Island in British Columbia, Canada.
Okay,
And
nice.
speaking of where people are, we've got Camilla on the line. Haven't seen her
Oh,
for a little
nice.
while.
Hey, haven't heard from you in a
And
while, Camilla. Welcome. Thanks for showing up.
yeah,
And what is
it's
it?
5:40 there.
I was gonna say, what's the time? Okay, that's not so
Yeah,
bad. We're not killing Camilla like we used to do. She's in the opposite side of the
after
world.
midnight.
Yeah,
Yeah, and we've got
yeah.
we've got Tyler and Pilipila and Raymond Odette. We've got Vicky
Welcome,
Harrelson and
welcome. All right,
KG.
sweet. Okay.
Yeah, and
Good to have you all here.
people.
All right, cool.
Ooh,
So I intentionally obscured my horizon right there. I intentionally made that softer. I want to make sure. Yeah, on this computer screen. Yeah, I think we're good. I have one monitor that's looking a little overexposed, but I think that's just that. I want to make sure you can see my colors. So you can see that I got rid of that sharp horizon because that's something that imagination can fill. We don't need that. And it's such a habit. I feel like every one of my paintings has got that laser straight cut to make a horizon somewhere. Because I don't know, I think I'm just like a builder at heart. I like to build things and I'm just thinking right here, I want this, and right here, and I'm cutting out the edges. Painting feels similar to sculpting to me. So I'm resisting that urge is what I'm trying to say. Resisting that urge for it to be really exact. All right, so we have an interesting concept here. When we have all of this purple, we get maybe all the contrast we need just by using black, because we already have the yellow, so our palette can be pretty simple. Here's black and white, and I can get the foreground of pond water probably just as well, with the same colors, with the purple and yellow. If I add yellow, it's going to be greenish pond water, So I use this, what I call the underpainting. I know in a traditional sense, an underpainting is kind of like a full image, but for me, it's all about the tool I need to make decisions, because I've got this in my short-term memory. A few seconds ago, I did this. I know what that felt like, how much color I used. I don't have to remember some project I did a week ago. So it's all fresh on my mind, makes the rest of the painting easier, and I can make decisions about making colors light or dark, or however I want to change them. Okay, so I can get that green pond-ish color. And so that's a good experiment. Let's see what it looks like if I use some of that. I'm going to have to make a little bit smaller brush strokes as I progress on this painting, because I think the style won't really be captured with these long, straight brush strokes. I have to shrink it down a bit. So we'll put some greenish. There's more mossy. We got the mossy look, but another look we can use for water would be more on the brown side. We could. Oops, I put black. I meant to put purple. That's a do-over. Let's spread that out. Go over to the right side. Over here, we could do purple. So here's my purple. And see, this purple with yellow makes, mostly yellow, see, makes a nice brown. And I think that color might look a little bit, more like, well, it's just a different look. Sometimes under the water we see more golden brown colors. Sometimes we see more greenish colors. So it's an experiment to see what I like. I think I might do all the above. Just put a whole bunch of those in there. So this is just experiment, trial and error to see what I'm going to do. I'm going to paint over this is what I'm getting at. Look at that color, though. Isn't that cool? It's very, very brown in comparison with these over here. Yeah, I like that for the underwater. I've never seen those lotus plants growing over deep, dark water. I've always seen them, well, I might be a little off. I remember being up at the Boundary Waters in northern Minnesota. And, we probably had a depth of a few meters, and there were still some lotuses on top. So maybe I'm wrong about that. But anyway, my thinking is I want to see the bottom. I want to see the light in this scene. And we'll probably want a bridge in there. So once I have an atmosphere established, you know, it would be kind of fun. I'm just now thinking every picture seems like a head-on view, and like all the pictures I saw, it was like looking straight down the scene, and then the bridge goes left to right. What if I kind of angled it? That might be fun, huh? Doing like a little bit of a perspective twist. I think that might be fun. Maybe I'll try that. All right, how's things going there in the chat, Leanne? You tend to be quiet, and I worry that the connection got lost, but you're doing a great job. A great job.
I'm still here. I just turned the volume off while I'm typing so you don't hear it.
That's fantastic. I love the attention to detail there. That's really good. Okay, just making sure we still got you.
Yeah, what I have done is let everyone know that they can drag and drop any of their
nice. Yeah, we'll make sure we look at that. Okay, cool.
Google Drive folder. And
okay.
I actually put 2 in there. Mavis felt that my Walking with Marcia photo or painting is probably semi-impressionist.
Okay, that's cool. Nice.
All right. Yeah, we have B.A. Humdinger says, "Thanks, Joe. Happy Easter, brother."
Hey, happy Easter. Nice. Thanks. Okay. Good to have you. All right, I'm going to do this. I'm going to add just a little bit of perspective. Let's say this one is above eye level. I'm going to make a level top on my bridge, but I'm going to make an arched underside. You know, I'm just inventing my own bridge here. I'm going to make this bridge go away from me. So, oh boy, that's looking kind of crooked. Let's go like this. Let's go not quite as much. You know, perspective is like a high-speed steering wheel. A little bit makes a big difference. So we're going to just barely change this. Of course, I am making my job harder by trying to do something fancier than what is needed in this picture, but I don't know. I just thought it'd be cool. All right, so I'm just going to make that. I'm going to make this left side of my bridge just a little bit expanded, so it looks like it's kind of moving away. My arch, you know, this is a really good example of the sensitivity of perspective. So I'm going to, right now, I've got this kind of leveling out where this is more curved. Those little things, you know, it's worth just carefully adjusting when you're trying to capture perspective. The tiny little changes give us kind of different signals, so to speak, on what the perspective layout is. Now, I'm not an expert bridge builder, but I'm just going to throw something together. This is my fantasy world, so we're going to just pretend like I know what I'm doing. And I'm going to go like this. I'm going to put some little, what do you call these? What do you call the railing things? You know, not spindles.
Balusters?
No, that's a good word. Man, good job. Wow. Okay.
Got to know that when you're.
I never would have known that word. Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, when you're trying to paint, some classy looking stuff. There we go. Let's put some of those. It'll kind of up the classiness of the experience. If we put a little bit of nice architecture in the bridge. There we go. So now my intention is to make it ever so slightly tipped this way, so that it looks like this end maybe is a bit closer. And then perhaps I can orient my stream to tell or pond, stream, pond, whatever we want to call it, to tell the same story. This is still just the underpainting, you know, so I'm not married to any look that pops out here while I'm just getting it figured out. But we're just going to lay it out. Okay, so now I'll just ever so slightly orient my brush strokes. I'll tip them down to the left so that things are kind of flowing this way. And here's something that gets overlooked a lot with water. I'm not going to call it a mistake, but it's something that gets overlooked probably unintentionally. And that is when you tip things in perspective, when you move them around, it's important to understand that whatever's down here by your feet changes angle much more extremely, in things that are closer to horizon barely change at all. So I want, if I want to change the flow of this, I'm not going to make all the brush strokes tipped. Now, this is like an impressionistic style, so I'm not going to try to paint ripples on water. I'm just going to put brush strokes at a particular angle. So up here, they'll be real level. That's just an example of the angle that we're shooting for there. I think I used a little bit of black to slightly gray that color. Here we go. Real level as they go back. And then as they come down, you know, this is where we're going to start to tip them so that it looks like we've got a direction to this. You know, like if, you know, it's, I'm second guessing if I'm right. That's why I'm stuttering here. Second guessing if this is a good decision. This is good for perspective, but as far as the reasoning to my painting, I'm not sure. I was thinking maybe if it, but I don't want flowing water. If I got a bunch of water lilies, we don't need it flowing. So, you know, I think angling these might be not appropriate for this picture. I was thinking of, I just assumed ripples because I'm so used to doing river scenes, but now I'm second guessing, thinking we don't need ripples. We got a calm pond going.
Yeah, I would think it's a pond, so it would be very.
Yeah, right. I think that was not, that doesn't really fit the scene. However, what I said is true. It's a, you know, as a good side note, that if you are taking, let's say that you have like ripples and on a beach or in a river, and you know, the orientation of rotating that will change, and you want to change these down here more than these. However, in this picture, we're not doing that because there's not directional ripples in this one. They're all kind of even. We don't have flowing current. We're going to keep things level. Level because it's just according to my perspective. You know, I'm just looking across the water. All right, and then over on the side, we'll have bushes. So let's put some black and yellow for the bushes. Black, yellow. Here's a great way to make some quick bushes.
Okay, we've got our first question from Mavis.
Let's hear it.
If the right side of the bridge is coming more forward, wouldn't the ripples perspective come to the lower left instead of the lower right?
Yeah, you're right about that. But I think maybe I just misspoke or something. You know, the idea is that this is the closer side. That's my intent, is that this side is closer and that things are moving this way. So perhaps I didn't communicate.
That's how I saw it.
Yeah, that's the idea. So maybe it's good clarification because maybe I said that wrong. Okay, so we're putting white on the yellow and black. Go ahead.
We've got some people sending in photos to the drive now. So
okay, I like it when you interrupt me. Just keep on interrupting me while I'm just talking, filling up the silence. You know, nothing I say is important. Just interrupt. Okay, I'm going to look at that. I'm going to put my brush down. This is a good underpainting. This gives me enough to make color decisions, although I didn't do any lotuses in there yet. That it gives me just a plan. It's just a plan, that's all. It's kind of a big looking bridge. I wonder if there's a way to make that look a little bit smaller. We'll have to think of that later. I just didn't want to do exactly like all the other paintings. As we can see, there's only about 1 million that have that one kind of bridge. Look, it's like every picture has that bridge.
You see, I think if you have bigger vegetation and behind it, then it will look
that's
like
a good point. Yeah, because then you have the comparison. Smaller. Very good. Right. Okay, that's great. Okay, let me flip over here to make sure I don't click on the wrong button. We're going to go to this folder. Yeah, I got a whole bunch of stuff in here. Check this out. We've got, here's a cool picture from Tyler. Look at this one. Tyler, thanks for sharing this. I didn't ask your permission to show it off, but I think it's super cool. He's working on a dragon. And yeah. I thought the perspective, we're talking about perspective. You know, perspective on legs and ankles and heels and fingers and toes, that's hard, man. And curved claws. That's great work on that. I like how you did that. Mm-hmm. And my thought, my contribution, my suggestion on this was a little bit of color. I don't know why that just happened. A little bit of color change on the edges. Man, I don't know. I don't know what that is. That's kind of weird. Is it trying to screenshot it?
Yeah, that's what it looks like.
A little bit of color change along edges gives you a more 3D look. So you can take, in this case, maybe a more purple color because we have blue background and a red body. So if you added slightly more purple, kind of grayish colors along the edges where we can see somewhat black outlines, that makes those so much more rounded and 3D looking. It's a good trick, just a trick that you can add to it. I really like this. It's a cool looking creature. I like that. He said this is decorating a kid's bedroom here. This picture.
You
All right,
really see
let's
the
move
glow
on.
on that.
Yeah. Okay. Nice. Yeah. Let's see if I can properly navigate out of this one. Let's see what else we got. Now this one is Christina. She submitted earlier. I know these are small pictures, but I'll kind of go through them because she's got a lot. So she submitted on the last live stream. So it looked like just two-tone, just black, for lack of a better word, black and white, brown and white. Some really cool line work. So I'll kind of go through these. These are, well, that's an invoice for a job. Wrong direction. Okay. We're going to look at more of these where she's adding color, kind of a watercolor with hard lines defining the style. I really like this one, and it's a bigger picture, so we'll hover on that. It's beautiful work. And here's what I would try on this if I was looking to enhance it. It's already so beautiful. It's hard for me to contribute like ideas to improve this because I think it's really beautiful. But I would add a little extra boost of color. I love this kind of purple color in these shadows. I think that's beautiful. And I would try more of that in all of these dark shadows. I would give it that boost of, again, somewhat of a purple color, because when a blue sky reflects off of any kind of an orange or brown or red, it's the red and the blue really create a more purple result. And it's something that you can just enhance for a look. This feels similar to this color scheme I'm working with. I've got the purple and yellow that I'm geeking out on there. Maybe it's just on the brain. I love the purple and yellow. It's beautiful. And I think high contrast is such an awesome thing. So I would even take the contrast, like your dark spots. I would go even darker, where you have some of your foreground shadows going all the way to a pure black. I just love the way the contrast looks. So that's two things I would try in this. I'm not saying that I know for certain that that's what needs to happen. Just that's where my mind goes when I look at it. Man, I really like the look of that. Such a nice picture.
It is. Camilla sent in one named Italy, and I
okay, let's check
right
that
below
out.
that.
Here is
Marcia
another.
said-
I don't know why whenever I zoom, it kind of does. Must be a new feature on this. Okay, here we have a perspective. I want to address this one because it has a perspective thing, and then I'm going to want to see Camilla's, what you're talking about. Okay, so look, here's something that evades us, kind of like we think about perspective and we put it together. So I just want to show here that on this door, these angles tell us, this is somewhat extreme perspective, which is great. It can be a cool look. This tells us that this side of this door is closer than this left side of this blue door because of this kind of triangular frame it's in. We see this expanding quite a lot. However, the texture going across the surface of the door is not telling the same story. We see the furthest panel at the same size as the closest panel, and this creates a visual conflict. It's minor, but I think you would really like the outcome if you flattened the further vertical panels in comparison to the closer. And you can use this angle change as a guide. You know, if it changes a lot, then you make the size difference a lot. And if it changes a little, then you just make it a little. So this change, typically in perspective, is more extreme than the angle changes. So you know, in the typical example where you have a give me a moment here. Hang on. Let's close this. Give me a moment. Let me thumb through my computer here. We're gonna click on this little thing here. I want to do this. Okay, let's go like this. We got a road. Okay, now I'm going to go like this. The change in closeness of these, that change will be more extreme. Whoops, let's undo that one. Than the change in size left to right. So here they get real scrunched, becomes almost solid like that. So that kind of perspective, let's put a little horizon in there. There, now we've got a road going back in the distance. Just to illustrate what I'm trying to describe with my little mouse on the computer, that's all. Okay, let's go back to this. Beautiful work. So I would take this angle of these also, because that's at 90 degrees to this. I would drop that down, really expand that out to come down this way. All right, let's move on. Let's see what other pictures we've got. This is beautiful work, and she had a whole collection. She didn't ask that I show all of her work, but you know, I just threw it all in there so that I could have my pick. Okay, what was the one from Camilla? Let's back out and see what we're looking at. We've got. Was I looking at it just now there?
Called Italy.
Called Italy. Let's see. And she dropped it into this folder.
Yeah, it should be near the bottom.
Oh, here we go. I'm actually not even in the folder. Oh, we got lots of stuff in here. Okay. Let's look in here. We gotta take time to look at more of these. Let me move you over right here. Okay.
And then the two below her I dropped in, but I don't know which other ones are new.
Okay. I you know what? I'm just gonna go through these. Sailing away. Look at that. Is that yours, Leanne? Is this your picture?
Yes.
Look at that. That's beautiful. Okay, I'm just gonna go through them because I don't know how to find Camilla's in there, but I'm gonna find it. That is a beautiful pic. This feels similar. Maybe that's what Mavis was getting at. This feels similar to the style that we're going after today. That's beautiful work. Great job with the underwater colors versus the less saturated reflection colors. It captures that water just right. That is great work from our very own Leanne, who's helping to host today. Okay, then we got this awesome looking tree. Nice. I don't know who did this. We don't have a name on it, but
that was one of mine.
Oh, that's Leanne too. That's Leanne also doing this. Let's check it out.
A friend of mine walking through the forest.
Okay, cool. I love the edge lighting on the trunks, and the bold colors in these shadows is real nice too, instead of just colorless gray shadows. I really like that. Nice. Okay, let's keep scooting along here. We're gonna go. Whose is this one? Recognize that one? Beautiful work. Beautiful work. Whoever did this. I don't see a name.
That's Camilla.
Oh, that's Camilla. That is beautiful. I love the atmosphere layers. This is really fantastic. The gradient of the sky, these layers in the hills. Now, if it were mine, I would add just a touch more purple, kind of like I added purple to the background on this one. I'm not saying this is great, but this is what I'm talking about, purple. The end result doesn't have to look purple. But what it does, when it's on green, it just creates a gray. And the most distant hills can look more three-dimensional, more natural with that little bit of purple added there. But not everybody likes that. You know, it's up to you to decide how much. I think it's just a tool to use at your own discretion. Nice work with the foreground here. Sorry, I keep getting extra windows here popping up. Let's see if we can get this. Go up here. Nice work with the foreground. Really beautifully done. It looks like we can look right down at the ground. High contrast, good perspective. And okay, here's two things telling a different story. Camilla, it's beautiful work. I'm not criticizing it, but a pot like this, in where the ground is coming down, see how this one has the same foreshortening. Look at that oval shape there, how it's the same as this oval shape here. So I just want to show you, we'll go back over to this app. We'll just kind of switch the color. Close oval, distant oval. Beautiful work. Look at that. Okay, so this one has a more level bottom, but then when we get closer, here, let's just reload this so that we've got a clear canvas. Move this out of the way. Let's go here.
Camilla says, "Oh yeah, I see. I did not think of that."
Well, these are things that are easy to not think about, and don't ever take it as criticism. Okay, there, I went a little slower so I could draw it. So that's a close one, and you can see that I have curves that are beginning to look more like I'm looking down at. If I were looking down, it would just be a circle, right? So I curve it more the more I look down at it. And then as I go further in the picture, not quite as curved. Okay, we're going to go up here, a little more level on the top, like this. Okay, like that. Now that's my further one, right? Okay, there we go. And so now let's put the horizon in place. All right, and then let's add a few things that are telling the same story. We're going to put some tiles, and let's say this is just a floor. It's a tile floor, like this. Okay, we'll go closer together up here, just like that blue door we were looking at. Okay, expand it. Now we're really going to make this one big. Look at that. Okay, there we go. So now we have a perspective map that maybe feels a little bit more. Maybe feels a little bit more 3D. That's all. So something to look for. That's all it is. Beautiful work. I love the way this painting looks. Camilla, you did an excellent job. I love that.
Well, Camilla says that she loves to get better. So
okay. Well, in my judgment, you are getting better with everything I see. All the pictures you've shown.
Yeah.
I've been just constantly. Yeah, this is from John. Check this out. He's made amazing progress doing this. John does some really lifelike portrait stuff, and so he works in I've seen him do a more traditional underpainting and gradually work his way toward the details. He's doing a fantastic job with this. Hey, John, if you just stop right there, then you've got the Monet style that I'm trying to do. But I can tell this. He's still working on this. He keeps showing progress shots, and this is beautiful work. Yeah, it's really good. And go ahead, Leanne.
Sorry. Yeah, his comment was, "I have been working on my clouds."
Okay, nice.
I made up as a background match the lighting on the portraits.
Okay. Sorry, I'm having a little bit of an issue with I'm going to try to get that. Hang on a minute. We got things glitching out on me. Hang on, let's go back to that picture. Right here, it was this one. Okay. Let's just expand it this way. This is easier. There we go. Oh, whoa. Sorry. Okay. Beautiful clouds. Again, I love purple. I would use purple because here's what happens when you mix light colors with blue, you get real turquoise. It's not a bad look, but it tends to not be what we're trying to get. So when you're making clouds, because paint doesn't do what light does. When I mix paint, I get a green. When I mix light, let me show you what happens. When I put a blue and a yellow with paint, we get that. But if I put a blue, let's see if this works. Let's see if we can. There. See, I made that reflector yellow. See, when a blue reflection happens on a yellow surface, look how it moves toward the gray violet. Do you see that reflection moving around on this circle? So this creates a very gray color, not green. So this is simulating what light does, where these two overlapping, see, that's what paint will do. And so we're always trying to counter that. So nice workflow is just to automatically have just a tiny bit of a little more purple color, because that's what will take that level of green down a little bit. and get natural looking clouds. That's how I always paint my clouds. I always have that little touch of more purplish color. Also, John, I want to point out that your perspective on this water tower looks nice, 3D, looks beautiful. However, when you're doing cylindrical shapes, we're back to the cylinder, just like with Camilla's. A little tip is to exponentially change your curve as you approach the edges. See how yours curves more in the middle than it does on the edges? We want to do the opposite. We want to have the middle curve less and the edges curve more. And you don't even have to see a photo to achieve this look. Here's the difference that we're talking about. If we go over here and I make a cylinder that's like this, we're going to make that pot again. Okay, now this one is curving more in the middle, less on the edges. Do you see that? And then we go like this. We make the bottom of the pot. You know, it looks okay. It's not terrible like that, but we've got more curve toward the middle. Look at my shaky hands. Okay, now I'm going to undo that. Now I'm going to make the middle less curved, and I'm going to make the edges more curved. So let me go nice and slow so that I can curve that edge more. See how I have a lot of curve on those edges, avoiding the look of a corner. You see that? So I curved less right here, and as I approached the edge, I really started to drop down. Right on that little edge, I really started to drop down. So then if I do the same thing here, let's go down here. Now let's really curve at the edge, really curve there. Now level out in the middle. Now really curve at the edge. There we go. See how that perspective has a natural rounded feel. That's my suggestion to you for this water tower, is maybe slight increase of curve on these edges so that you don't have, so that these don't become corners that unintentionally flatten your object. Very minor change, you know, it's like just a couple touches of color to change a slight curve. Okay, great work, John. Thank you for sharing. Looks amazing. Actually looks better than most paintings I've done. So I don't feel worthy of commenting. This is a beautiful picture, but I think we looked at it last week. Beautiful picture. Okay, I think we're back to the ones we saw. This is the ones I put in there from Christina. Beautiful. And I think that's it. I think our folder has been cycled through. So let me know if there's anything that I missed. And we're going to start the top layer on this one. So we need some lotus plants. Let's do some lotus plants. Let's say that we've got a little bit more orange in our lotuses, and I'm gonna try to move my brush quickly so that I can make a lot of progress. So I apologize if you're trying to see brush technique and I'm putting it on a bit fast at some point. I'm going to use orange and yellow to capture the inside. Let's just do a test run on the lotuses. Let's say we got a lotus in here. I'm going to use like a yellow and orange to get nice bright colors toward the middle. Let's do a few of them here. Some in here. Nice bright color. Okay, now at the base of my lotus, I want more shadow. So I'm going to put a purple in there. Now these colors could be all kinds of different colors, I think. But when I'm doing a flower, I want saturated color in the shadows. Since I'm doing smaller details, I'll zoom in. So probably a good idea to zoom in there. Okay. When that updates, Leanne, tell me if that's looks good. Just don't let me forget to move the camera later. Okay, so now I'm going to add white. I like to put my color on, and then I like to add white to reduce my color as needed. So look where I put it right at the top and drag it down in so that we have lots of color down lower in the shadows, and it reduces as we have places where we might expect to see more reflection. Reflection tends to be less colorful. So at your discretion, you can just put little dabs of color. This is not about the details, so I'm resisting the urge to try to get accurate details. We're just going to throw in We're just going to throw in little brush strokes in here, maybe even intentionally make them messier, the messy side. There we go. Let's try something maybe more on the purple side for that shadow. Let's get this and put it down here where that underside is. Maybe a little more purple. It tends to look like a more reflective shadow. It's common. See more purplish colors. Okay, so a lot of different color schemes that you can do, but the pattern is where I'm putting the less saturated color looks like outer, you know, it makes it more 3D if you're conscious of what's outer and what is deeper inside of your object. So where it gets more saturated is where it looks like it's going into the flower. So I concentrate on pulling my pale white down into the middle because that middle I want to look deeper. And that's the function that this method serves for me. Okay, I hope that's making sense. Now I'm going to put yellow and black, try to get some lily pads in here. Let's just do some horizontal lines in here, shortening my strokes, maybe a little bit of orange for, I don't know, maybe if they have a few dry dead spots, or we'll just let imagination decide why I've got that little bit of orange in there. Now here's some white on top of it, just a little bit. Now this is a technique, I think typically if you're trying to capture a Monet style, you might choose to use oil paints. I'm using water-based and they dry fast. So this technique of putting saturated color and then pulling white into it helps me with this look because it's putting colors on there and blending them on the canvas to get a similar look to what oils might do, since they don't dry fast and they let you blend, you know. So let's put some more of these in here. Let's start putting some water in place, a little bit of orange in there. That's a color I didn't have before, and some purple. I've got purples in there. I used purple and yellow to get that brown that was in my first layer. So let's put, oh man, when the purple hits that orange, it's a nice foreground color. I like that. Okay, smaller strokes. We want the look of a smaller painting here. Now let's brighten it up with yellow. Get some light coming out of that. This is feeling a little bit intense though, so I'm going to put some black and white. One thing I know for sure is that black and white will kill intensity. Let's do this. See how it kind of looks oil painting like with that blending. But making these decisions quickly is one of the key components, and what speeds up your decision making is having done a practice layer and underpainting and familiarity with what patterns are going to achieve what effect. So I really just try to be well versed in patterns of light. You know, this is saturated color, so it goes deeper, just like saturated color on the flower goes deeper. Wherever I use the pale grayer colors, that's going to come up onto the surface like reflection. So watch, when purple meets green, purple is opposite to green. This same concept I was talking about with those clouds, where purple meets green, it makes a grayer result, and it's going to pop right up onto the surface of my water. Here we go. Go across, get some texture in there. Let's do a few water lilies on this spot while it's still wet. We got yellow and black. Okay, I'm thinking I need to maybe pay attention to general location of water lilies. You know, I suppose that the leaves would grow, maybe like 2 or 3 leaves go around the edges of a lily. So we'll put some leaves in place first. And here's a little trick. You know, if you know your background color, I've got kind of a purple yellow, so I'll take a purple yellow color over here. I've got it off camera, sorry, but I'm just here. Let me do it on my little palette here. It's funny, I'm more comfortable mixing on the painting than my mixing palette. Purple yellow, that's to represent my background. We're going to make it reflect off of my lily pads. like this. Oh man, that's a very brownish color. Let's make it lighter. And I put it on the front. See, if I put it on the front, see how it cups the shape? We don't even need details. It kind of cups the shape of that, which I think is common. I remember seeing this on those a lot as I was taking a kayak through those northern Minnesota waters. It's pretty cool. Yeah. So let's do a few of these. Let's not get too obsessed with what little lily pad is in what place. Let's put a little bit more of that in here. Here we go. We've got a green, nice dark green color. Then I'm going to go down here and grab my light background color, and on this front edge in a few spots, try to capture the look of some, see how it just kind of looks like a little bit of reflection. Hitting those, there we go. Some of those in place. Now we're going to put some color. Let's do some lotuses right in the middle. Let's do a couple here. They're going side by side. There's some orange. Let's do one maybe a little more on the pinkish side. Let's put some purple down low. This will be that shadowy underside. Purple and orange are going to give me a nice dark shadowed reddish color. And then, oops, sorry, I'm kind of painting off camera here. Let's shift that a little for you. There you go. Let's go over there. And now I'll just add white. We'll skip the yellow.
Just been having a little discussion about whites.
Oh, okay.
Great.
All right, cool.
Ringgold has been using a little more zinc white in their paintings lately because it's a little less opaque than titanium white. So
okay, a little bit different handling with the mixing. Okay, that's interesting. All right, it's a good little tip. Yeah, so you can strategically choose your white depending on how reactive you want that mixing to be, huh?
Right.
Yeah, I've noticed. Go ahead, Leanne.
They just put out a little warning though that it has a downside. It can become brittle and flake. Doesn't make a strong paint film as lead or titanium.
Okay, good to know.
That's the conversation.
Okay, that's good. I'm trying some different color water lilies here. Let's try some yellow in this one. Put a little yellow. So you can see I really don't need a lot of exact detail. This combination of the less saturated moving into the more saturated kind of gives me that 3D look that the imagination can interpret. Here's purple. I'm just putting purple on the underside. See, and it just kind of makes it cup. It's not the exact colors. What it is it's the pattern of less saturated highlights moving down into the saturated with a darker underside altogether, so that the values of that darker underside creates the 3D cup, but then the saturated versus the less saturated creates the coming out into the light where things are reflecting instead of light shining through them. That was an error. This was messiness. I don't think Monet had any of these. That's my special touch. That little squiggle. We're going to pretend like that was intentional. Let's put some bushes in here. Let's go like this. Let's go white, and we're going to put more grayish colored green. So whenever a more purple atmosphere, not purple, a more bluish atmosphere, or let's just say when light reflects off of green, it tends to turn it more gray. And so to avoid getting overly saturated, and this is kind of what I was trying to refer to Camilla with that Italy landscape. It was beautifully done. Is that choosing a very gray color? That's all the purple does, is it just turns the green to gray. So here, this is just black and white to get this look here. And I'm just doing little strokes while the paint's still wet, trying to get that impressionistic Monet look. See, if I want to put little flowers in this, I can do that with the same concept. Saturated colors will go deeper into whatever shape I create to represent flowers. And then I can add white to it to bring them out into the foreground. I'm going to add more. How much longer do I have you for, Leanne? How are we doing on time?
We're at 9:30. So
okay, we got some time. All right, that's good news. I was thinking that we were rapidly approaching the 10 o'clock mark. Yeah.
No.
We're going to wrap it up at 10. That's when Leanne's got a deadline, so we're going to respect that. And also, I need to get to the weekend with my kiddos. I always enjoy hanging out with the family on the weekends. Got to do that too. Can't just spend all my time painting, as fun as it is. Okay, we're going to go like this. Saturated colors. Go ahead.
Said, I looked away from the details for a minute, and when I look back at the whole painting, the effect is stunning.
Hey, all right. That's what we want. That, I feel like your imagination is helping me out. That's what we want. So I'm shrinking my brush strokes. I'm trying to move quick to get my brush strokes smaller. And I'm doing the same kind of pulling the white into my saturated green. See how I'm taking the white, putting it out here, pulling it into my saturated greens. And what I did before that was I pulled my saturated greens into a more black color that you see over here. So you see I pull the greens into the black, and that's just like the flower. I pulled the more gold color out of the darker purple. And those are just chosen colors. You could try all different colors, but think about it. What's darker, what's lighter, what's saturated and less saturated. Those are the patterns I'm at the moment focusing on. So I took those more saturated greens, pulled them into the black. Now I'm taking the white, pulling it into the greens. And then I get that bush kind of popping out, and I can put flowers on my bush. Let's make this a lilac bush, my very favorite flower. I love lilacs. They're just so amazing. I think it's because at this point, the nostalgia that they have for me. I grew up with one in my backyard in Ohio, and it just takes me where I'm.
Favorite smelling flower.
Man, I'm right with you on that. Sometimes when I'm half asleep, the smell comes to me like a good dream, It's like I'm that affected by it. It really is just a fantastic thing. So I think I have such a happy childhood, that I love things that bring back memories. Okay, I'm dabbing the white and bringing the white into my more saturated color like this to get the look of three-dimensional flowers. And if you're working with oil, of course, you've got more time to control where your brush strokes are and try to stylize it in the way that fits what you're going for. But we're not trying to get super precise objects in locations. We're just trying to get that feel, right? We're just trying to get the feel of these little flowers in our bush. So if I want to come and add more depth to this bush, I've got a general location. Let's take this dark color. You can see where I've got the more saturated green going into the shadow. So I'll go right down here to this little point of my shadow triangle and go opposite. Now I'll work the shadow into the green. Like that. See how it pops those out, gets more 3D. Here's a shadow kind of going in this way. It looks like a shadow between branches of the bush. So now I work out into the green. So then I can build that 3D shape the other direction. Once I have that.
Camilla has a request.
Okay, what's that?
What projects you're working on, and if you have anything to show us.
Oh yeah, you know what? I've got a lot of stuff. Let me see. Let's see if we can go to the Google Photos. Let's see if something's in there. Give me a moment. I'm leaning over at my other computer. I never want to assume that that's what people are trying to spend their time on. But here's some that I'm working. Here's my collection of Google Photos. I just did this one for a client. This picture was for a customer, and I was working on You know, this one, yeah, I've got the computer on. This one inspired the studying the direction. Let me see if I can expand this. Studying the direction of water movement. What kind of, sorry, here, let me use my fingers. Easier if I use the touch screen. Trying to understand the motion of water and using shape patterns to suggest that this water is flowing away from me instead of toward me. I saw in the photo. That was in a couple live streams ago. You can watch that. So no need to explain it now. So this was a paid job for a client that I finished. And that one is above a jacuzzi bathtub. So down here at the lower part of the picture is a jacuzzi bathtub in this master suite. It's a pretty cool space. Man, these places I get to work make me jealous. That's for sure. And then I've got...
I like the atmosphere.
Thank you. I chose, the lighting, the natural light bulbs add a bit of a more orangey, warm color, but I also, this is actually mostly black and white, this sky here, mostly just black and white. Because of the lighting, I got a very kind of umber gold color, whatever you want to call that color, to the fog. So I just ran with that and added it to the trees. There was an inspiration photo they had that we kind of used as a layout model. I didn't copy any of it. I just used it as a layout model, which tends to be a much faster way to use a photo. And it was more gray. So I added color contrast in this one. I made the water blue. I made the atmosphere less gray. There were some choices there. And then I have another one. Let's see if we can back out.
Here's wants to know how much time that took.
That one took, that was probably about a 40-hour job, something close to that. And this one could have been a little more. Yeah, let's say 40 to 50. Mm-hmm. Here's one that's a work in progress, not finished yet. It's same house, different spot in the same house. We're just creating, it's not such a different feel than what we've got going at the moment. But this one, they're not, what's funny is this homeowner, this is my customer, and this homeowner does not want the Monet. Feels like, I don't want Monet. I want things to look lifelike. that was the criteria not to follow. It's like, I don't like the Monet look. So right now we're trying to do the opposite. So you can see I've got some sharp edges in here that are kind of not really capturing the Monet look. I want to soften up. Those are the two that I've got to show at the moment. Those are the two.
I love the trees and everything in that.
Thank you. You know what? They were done with the same yellow and black. The same thing, just starting with yellow and adding black over the top. Kind of like this over here. The yellow goes deeper into the tree where the light's coming from behind, and then I would just dab it, and then it'd get yellower. And you can kind of see in this how it looks like the black is in front of the yellow. It has that effect when you do that. And that was my base layer with those trees. This kind of technique right here, that was it. That's how I did that mural, just dabbing. And you can see how that kind of creates light popping through. Let's just leave it there. It's kind of fun. Let's do that. Let's make light popping through this. We're just going to use some color patterns. So here's another way to approach this. We've got light maybe coming from the background coming through this bush. So let's take our black and put some, I'm going to put some clumps of leaves gradient that goes in, toward the middle. We're going to go this way like this.
You really have to know when to stop dabbing, though, or you're going to get one.
Yeah, it all runs together. You're right about that. And I forget that when you're new to holding a brush, muscle memory has to develop. Don't be discouraged about it. Just understand a matter of time develops some muscle memory where you go more directly from what you're thinking to the canvas. Where if I paint with my left hand, then it takes me back to that. I have to slow down and I have to really think about where I'm putting these, and now I'm not going directly from thought to canvas because I got to think about that hand putting stuff where I want to go, so I totally relate, if you find that to be a struggle. Okay, so now we got light kind of striking through this. That's fun. Now we can take a little bit of white and let's put a little gray. See, like the gray reflection here, gray reflection on leaves. It's just a dab. It's just a pattern. That's going to create a grayer color that kind of comes forward to the surface. The grayer highlights are like reflective outer surfaces. That's a good general rule. And if you're trying to go for a Monet-like style, you don't have exact shapes to define right where everything is. So these patterns can be really helpful. You can do some nice looking foliage with a couple simple color patterns. So that white adds the grayer color. And now I have the light kind of popping through the background of my bush. Now let's start really lightening it all together to get the atmosphere that we're after. And watch this. Purple is going to kill that green as we go right up here to the bridge like this. Going to get a gradient in here.
Little bit off camera now.
Whoop, my bad. Thank you for telling me. Go like this. Let me just zoom out a touch so you can see all that. Now here I'm going to dab this with white. And I'm just going to, here's a trick when you're trying to make, if you try this with water-based paint and you want to get this texture, the fine texture that doesn't have giant brush strokes, always look for a large brush stroke to intersect. So I see longer lines that intersect. Every one of these quick little movements, I'm trying to look for longer shapes to intersect. It's a much more efficient way to break apart your texture to look like you took more time with a smaller brush. You just get rid of what you don't want to see. That's kind of what it's doing. You're just getting rid of the large shapes. So instead of just putting them in random places, I'm concentrating on scraping across so you can see how it rapidly breaks apart that texture. All right, here we go. Let's see what happens if we kind of mess with this background a little bit. Let's do our purple white atmosphere back here. And let's kind of go back to, I don't know what I'm doing with this bridge. This is a point of confusion for me. This is what happens when you compulsively go outside the box of expectations. And then you realize that box is actually a helpful thing because it creates a relatability in a picture. I made this bridge and I don't know how to make it look like something natural. I'm going to put my background back in and see if I can maybe make there. We'll really dab it, get that background in there. Now let's get darker, more purple colors again for what might be the railing of the bridge. Yeah, there we go. For that. I think in construction, you might expect to see triangles, right? You might expect to see
Mavis thinks that bridge wants to be made of stone.
Oh, okay, you're right. Well, gosh, I think that's a good idea. Yeah, you probably have better judgment than me. Let's make it out of stone. Let's do it. Let's put some darker shadows on it again, but we're going to break apart the shapes. Hey, that's kind of cool. Imagination really just kind of fills it in. Here, if I just put messy, we just have enough edges, just enough edges in there to make it look like. Right now, I'm going to put little dabs of darker color where I already have shadows. This is a good strategy to follow. Don't put shadows where you don't have them yet. If you want to build a more and more 3D shape, then it's kind of counterintuitive. But look where you already have shadows developing and go to those spots first to put little dabs of shadow so that we can make it feel like perhaps tiny little undersides of rocks in our proposed stone bridge here. Let's make sure we get get a darker color toward the bottom. And then I'm going to take my purple yellow atmosphere blend here. I got maybe a little bit heavy on the yellow. And I'm going to make that edge of the bridge not so completely like precise, you know, very, it's like a precision edge, and that's not the style we're going for. There's a little purple in there. Let's go like this. Boy, the paint already dried. Look at that. Goes quick. Okay, we're just going to do little strokes until this starts to disappear. This really is kind of fun because the dreamy look, you know? I love the dreamy look. It's fun when your imagination starts filling stuff in, you know? I keep saying that.
It's really dreamy. I like
yeah, that the absence of hard edges, I think, accomplishes that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, maybe there's more to it than that, but that's just kind of my initial analysis of it. Like that. Now let's maybe go down here and make the water a little more developed. We're going to stick with small enough area that my edges stay wet. So what do we use in there? Let's put a little purple. I'm not real concerned about exactly what colors end up here because I've got a simple color palette. They're going to end up pretty similar. But what I do want to be intentional about is adding that gray top coat to it. So here's black and white. See that gray that goes over the top is how I'm accomplishing the look of water. And keeping my brush direction on the water, I'm maintaining a somewhat horizontal. But I have to resist the temptation. See, I have muscle memory telling me to make real fast horizontal strokes, but that's not really the style of this impressionistic work that we're trying to capture. So I need to resist that. So I'm just going to strive to be sure that my shapes flatten out as they go higher. I want them to just flatten out as they go up. I want them to be more open as in taller, more space to the shape. So we go down. Let's put a little bit of bright color down here lower. What happens if we take just a little touch of purple in there? Get that pond brown. Put some of that down here lower. Get rid of any real sharp edges, you know, real defined edges. Okay, now we need some lily pads. So again, we're going to use yellow and black. Let's put one there, one there, one there, one there, one there, one there. Just put them wherever. A little bit of black in that. All my greens are just going to be using the black and yellow. I'm not even using green in this palette. We don't need it. But that doesn't mean that it's not good to use it. I mean, use those greens as you see fit. Look, there just so happens to be a little bit of black left on the edges of these shapes where I can just dab with white and get a gray kind of reflective look on my leaves, my lily pads.
That set Jay says it's looking good. And
Thank
Bearded
you.
said ahead, hey, what's up, Joe? Glad I caught you live this week, buddy.
Hey, all right. Good having you back, Bearded. Good seeing you, my friend. Thank you for joining us. Okay. We're going to put this in here. Ben is on vacation at the moment. My brother Ben, he went to Airbnb that has no internet access. Can you even imagine an environment with no internet? Man.
I had that the first week I was living in this house.
Yeah, right. Boy, I bet it's a great reset, you know? Like
it is. It's a little less stressful.
Right, because that itch to check updates and messages and all the stuff that every website is trying to lure you in with, it's not even an option. It's not there. So I think it kind of leaves your that part of your subconscious that might be automatically triggered every once in a while. Oh, is it time to check? Is it time to check? You know what I mean? Seems like that would go away more effectively if it wasn't even an option. Here's my saturated color.
Feeling like he's not at the beck and call of everyone. It's kind of nice.
I don't know. He's probably living it up. Sometimes you do those kind of things and you're just like, oh, there's an emergency and I need to get to Oh man, it accomplishes the opposite. Well, we hope he gets nice and relaxed, refreshed, ready to come back for another. But it sure is good having you here, Leanne. It was a nice excuse to get an old friend on the live stream.
And it feels a little bit like Super Peer again.
It's kind of like that, just a little bit different technology set up, but this is it, just the live setting. Now, as I work my way to the background, I still feel like in my picture, I've got sharp edges. I'm going to try to really, it's my default. So I'm intentionally going right to my edges. This is again, counterintuitive for me because my general practice is to address the edges and clean them up to make a picture look more finished. But the style of this intentionally leaves them soft. So I'm actually blending them out to get that more dreamy look. See how that softened that whole thing when I did those edges? So these are a bit sharp, but I think if you have time to really try to capture the look, leave more to imagination, then just go over the edge a couple extra times to blend it and make it not.
You're stressing Camilla out.
Messing up the edge. Yeah.
I love sharp edges.
I know. I'm right there with you. I'm right there with you. I know.
Some Zen music.
Yeah. It's fun, like cutting a clean edge is a real fun thing. But we have to appreciate artists that have really gone through really taken the time to show us that there's beauty in these different methods and these different styles. It for me, the value of that is it brings up the question, what is beautiful? Like it makes us as artists evaluate, well, why do people like a picture? What is being appreciated as beautiful in this? And Impressionism has helped me to understand that the beauty is not in my details. That is, perhaps it can be. I think I should rephrase that to not automatically in my details. Not necessarily. There's beauty to be had in a lot of different things here, I think. Okay, now I'm going to try to get on this paint while it's still wet, so that when I put these little flowers in here, pulling the light color down to the saturated color, like this. Let's just put a bunch of little dots here.
Is just the way you switch so easily from one kind of material to another and know the shapes, shadows, and everything is mind-blowing.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for that compliment. I appreciate that. I think that is an advantage that comes from dedicating your learning to patterns of shape and color, as opposed to dedicating your learning to techniques belonging to a particular medium. Because I feel like other artists have done much nicer work than me in every medium. So in that sense, could it be said perhaps that I'm somewhat of a jack of all trades with art execution, master of none? Because, well, if I had to be a master, probably this acrylic, this is what I always work with, But I'm telling you, whatever picture you like of mine, we can find another one on the internet where someone has done a cleaner, nicer, more finished, beautiful job. So I think I just really enjoy being able to execute it on demand while I talk about how it's being done, analyzing those patterns, in other words.
But sometimes I find when you take a do a quick job of something just to see if that's what I'm going for, and then you do a more refined piece. And I actually like the rougher piece better. The
Ah,
original.
that's good. Yeah, yeah, right. I can understand that. That makes sense.
And over refine the painting too.
Yeah, yeah. And perhaps that gets back to leaving some story for the imagination to put together. It's fun.
Yeah.
You know, it kind of takes some fun out of it if you tell the whole story. And, you know, when you add a perfect edge in every place, a person might think it was cool to see something else in the mist, but if you've put sharp edges everywhere, no, that's not the story. It's kind of like that, you know. That's not what's here. Now I'm looking for areas with sharp edges. This has sharp edges. I'm going to soften that. We're at the tail end. I'm sure we're getting short on time. How are we doing?
I'm just going to, I'll let you know. I got about 5 or 10 minutes. So.
5, 10 minutes. Yeah. Well, this is a good wrap up place. We've got a good feel for how the rest of this painting's likely going to be executed. So I'm just putting some background that matches what I've already got there. Here's a little bit of purple for fun. Let's see what that purple looks like on there. And when I get this in here, I'm going to bring it up close to these flowers and then perhaps redo a little bit of those edges to make them feel less exacted with just the perfect placement. So here's my middle color.
Mavis says edges and gradients make for a balanced life. Man,
that's it. That is it. I never would have said that a few years ago, but you know, I would have, well, I wouldn't have been as quick to say, yep, I agree, but trying to express what I observe happening with images has led me to that exact conclusion that it is entirely categorized by how you approach edges and gradients. That kind of is the universal categorization there. All right, I feel like I've landed on my final method for my lotuses. I like the orange white. It's simplified. You know, I was using all those colors, but I really am digging this orange and white. A touch of purple at the base.
I like that one that you're right by.
Thank you. Yeah, me too. I think that's the best look so far. And I'm just going to dab it with some purple down at the bottom to get that 3D shadow. Hopefully, here's some orange. And go back in there with some white. There we go. Yeah, see that blend of colors. That has some magic to it. I like that. I really like that. Boy, the less I touch it, the better it looks. What else is that true about? Less I touch it. Okay, that's the way I feel about so many things in life. You know, like, why am I here? The less I touch it, the better it works. I'm saying that jokingly. I'm a very loved person. I'm not trying to say what was me. We're going to put some white on here. And here's a little bit of purple on my green lily pads. I just put a little dab of purple because that's going to make a great opposite color, kill some of the green, make what looks like a reflective surface on there. Yeah, see, just that little bit of purple kind of tells the story. There we go. I like that. All right, this is still rough in here. Look, we got big strokes. Let's get a nice block that kind of comes together. Let's make this the last thing. See those big brush strokes? I'm going to soften up the details. We'll put just a touch of yellow, not too much. We don't want much green in this background. Now I'm going to take more time to go over wherever I see a longer edge, wherever I see that, because really we're addressing, you know, that presence of sharp carved edges. We're addressing that, making sure that we don't have too much of that to capture our look of soft and dreamy. So So here we'll do this. I can use some purple to really blend. See this edge that's created there with the green on the background. Purple is going to make that disappear because it kills the green. It'll just make it blend right into that. Then I can take the white and, you know, this is a good skill to build in painting is touching up, because you always want to come back on work and knowing what your workflow looks like to match an area and then rework it in a timely manner is really valuable. So that little decision might seem relatively meaningless to take this touch of purple and add it to that edge. But what that did was it matched my background so that I get rid of the sharp edge that I'm not after, and made my paint wet again and workable to do the same strategy all over again and get a softer feel to it. So being able to come in and quickly match. So in here, if I want to add a little bit more shadows, but my paint's dry, first thing I got to do is match my background. It's black, it's a tiny bit of yellow, it's a good amount of white until I arrive at a match. You know, this is just a workflow to touch up a spot. Okay, now I've got wet paint in place. It's got some edges on it. Let's lighten it up around the edges like this, but I am looking for darker shadows. So.
Lots of appreciation on your work there, Joe. Somebody
Thank
says
you.
Monet lives.
Monet, okay. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm going to do one last thing that I think. Go ahead. Sorry.
Camilla has a request for you to see the picture a little further away before we stop.
Oh, let's do it. I'm not doing anything new. Let's back out. Let's go like this. Here we go. Let's back out a little bit. I'm going to put shadows. So shadows on a water body like this under here, they can be like a dark reflection. So I'm going to put my underwater color in this shadow. So it's like this swampy brownish yellow. I'm going to do that. Here's a little bit of black. I'm going to do this to add what looks like a little bit of reflection along that shoreline. And then we'll add my greenery in there. Leanne, just you can just hang up and go when you need to. I'll wrap this up and end the video, but don't feel bad when you have to. I don't want to hold you up from your
appointment. Yeah, I'll leave in a couple of minutes.
No problem.
Thank you very much for doing these live streams, Joe. We're all really appreciative that you do such a good job with it and take your time to give that to us. That's great.
You bet. It's my pleasure. You know, this is one of the funnest things to do. It's just, I get a lot of joy out of it. So you are welcome, and thank you as well.
Yeah. Happy Easter to everyone that's celebrating. And
we got Easter. Yeah. Yep. We'll see if we can do anything outdoors. We're covered in some cold, slushy snow at the moment, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Might make it easier to hide any Easter eggs if they're only white.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good. Yeah. Hey, now you've got a good idea, Leanne. This means less work for me. Okay.
All right. We'll talk.
Camouflage. Thanks. Good having you on board, Leanne. Thank you for helping. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Okay, that's it, folks. We got to wrap this up. All I'm doing is the same stuff I've been doing, just trying to have a vision, have my imagination kind of looks at it and puts together more things, but I'm just trying to stick with that same technique of putting wet paint on in a small enough area that I can quickly soften edges and blend different colors together and not work on them too carefully so that they stay very soft. There we go. We've got the look right around in here. I think for a last little addition, let's really blow out the white. Just go full white glow in the background. I think that'll have a good feel to it. Yeah, I mean, you can see if there's a little more time in the day, then could really run with this, and make a very very developed picture. It's relaxing to do it because you can make fast progress without getting caught up in the tedious exacting of details. I really like that. Okay, there's my purple. Here's some yellow. I'm going to rinse my brush so I can get a bright white. We're going to get a nice bright white by getting the brush a bit cleaner. Get this white in here. And we go here and just bring it up that way. And try to get small brush strokes. So all I did to, it probably looks somewhat the same, but what I did was went to a pure white there to try to get a brighter glow. And then maybe I'll ever so slightly try to suggest that there's the shape of little tree fronds coming out. Maybe slightly bring that white in here. Leave a lot to imagination, Maybe same thing on that side. You know what would be cool in this? One last thing. Let's put a person in here. Can we do a Monet person? Can we do that? Let's go like this. Head. Okay, arms. Like this. All right, we're going to make it not so gold. Go like this. Just put a little bit of purple in there. It's very dark at the moment, but for its distance, it's very fun. Being able to just put basic shapes in there and it actually fits. It's actually looks appropriate for this picture. Put dabs in with hands that are unsteady. My great-grandmother was an excellent painter. She had a signature look. Hazel Bruner is the name. She had a signature style that actually came from her shaky hands. She had these same shaky hands. And it wasn't a disease. She stayed healthy all her life. She did fine. But it really added a signature style to the picture. And that's kind of a big head. Let's shrink it. Take that white and pull it in. There we go. Oh, I like that. Yeah, it really blends it out. See, that's a good, man, I think that's on the money right there. That kind of look. Like that. Now it kind of has that halo of unblended. Here, let me get that camera in the right spot. I like that. That's nice. What if we just did a little suggestion of a bright colored hat, some kind of maybe it's like a bright colored bonnet. Maybe this is some kind of a outfit with color on it. Just little dabs, It's just leaving it to imagination. I love it. I love that concept. Okay, I got to go. We got to wrap this up. Let's kind of lighten up these edges. There's our picture. That's my attempt at the Monet lily ponds style. Go like this. Zoom out. There's our final picture here. Let's zoom in on let's kind of frame it on the more finished portion. This is our more finished portion right there. That's it. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Really appreciate it. And I do intend to do these live streams, or at least upload some kind of a video on Saturday mornings on the days that I have to take off. Can't be here every Saturday morning, but we sure can be here for a lot of them. It's been tons of fun. Thank you again, Leanne, for the moderation, reading off comments. I'm looking at them now, looking over here to my right, looking at the nice comments. Thank you, everybody. Mavis says lots of learning about Impressionism. All right, sweet. So I'm still learning myself. Bye, Twiga. I like the name Twiga. Twiga, I like that username. Good. Camilla, it was great having you on here today. Glad you're able to stop in. We've got, there's this group of people that were in the live videos just like this for the last couple years. So forgive me. Don't mean to make it seem like a club, but we're we've become friends, and it's really fun to see you dropping in and watching on the YouTube video. Okay, we'll see you all next Saturday, and perhaps then we'll have Ben back in action and have a little bit of fun doing another concept. Send requests my way. You can just subscribe to the YouTube channel for further notifications, is what I was trying to say, that whenever these lives come on, if you're a subscriber, I think you get a notification, and whenever they're posted, it'll go right to it. Okay, we'll catch you all later.